Hello guys, it's Steel. How's it going? It's been a while since I posted a video, but I'm back. Here I'm going to be showing on my deck profile, which I got 7th at a remote regional, so I got my invite, my second ever regional, and I played Tearlaments. So I'm just here to share my deck profile, give you some thoughts on my deck, on the deck itself, and whatnot. I played in a regional last week at the Queen's Regional. I went X3-1 at that regional. I was one win away from my invite when I missed out on it, but I'm not too butthurt about it because I got my invite today. So I'll go a quick rundown of the deck, my card choices and whatnot, and then we'll go with that. So first of all, these are our Tearlaments monsters. We have 2 copies of Rhinoheart, 3 copies of Merlee, 3 copies of Sharon, and 3 copies of Havness. Rhinoheart is okay. This card isn't that great. It's a nice normal summon, but the problem with Rhinoheart is that it's kind of mid to mill. Because milling this card in the if you hit this card in the graveyard by milling it off one of your Tearlament effects, you have to discard one of your Tearlament monsters to summon it back, which means it's the weakest graveyard effect out of the 3 Tearlament monsters, the main deck ones, because these all fuse. Rhinoheart cannot fuse. Rhinoheart himself isn't terrible necessarily. He's a nice normal summon, obviously, but you don't want to play 3 of this card because you don't want to clog up on Rhinohearts. As good as this card is, the 3rd copy is just not necessary. Merlee, on the other hand, is probably one of the most important cards in the deck. This card is 2 for Sprint. It's level 2 for Sprint in order to make Elf. You can dub it off Sprint to fuse Summon after if you play through some number of your opponent's Bishals. It mills 3 on Summon, so which means it's also just like a free extension. This card has so much utility in it. Sharon's also pretty crazy, just because of the fact that you can send any of these Ishizu cards from your hand to the graveyard, or any of your Tearlaments monsters. Summon itself, mill 3, and it's also a 4 to making Abyss Dweller, which is probably the most important Xyz monster in your extra deck. Rhinoheart's also good for that reason because it's level 4, but it's not as important because the graveyard effect isn't that impactful compared to the rest of them. Havness is okay. It's a good hand trap. It's really, really good going second. Going first, it's just alright. It doesn't do a whole lot. It's pretty good against like a Magnum specifically, because if your opponent goes Magnum effect, banish a Tearlaments monster in your graveyard, you chain Havness, you can summon it mill 3. So yeah, this is a pretty standard lineup for Tearlaments monsters. There's nothing really too out of the ordinary. Then we have Ishizu cards. We have 3 copies of Keldo, 3 copies of Medora, 3 copies of Kelbeck, and 1 Agido. Kello's really crazy, and so is Medora. Kello's a bit better just because it searches any of these monsters. Medora is fine. But obviously these are probably one of the most broken cards in the deck because they essentially act as extra copies of DD Crow or Transmigration Prophecy if you guys were alive then. Banish stuff from the graveyard, put anything back, you can put back your opponent's tier names, you can put back your opponent's important combo pieces, like in Sword Soul you can put back like, I don't know, Vishuda or like Ashina, something along those lines. Very, very powerful cards. Thing with Keldo is also Keldo is also extension, which means if you pitch any one of these Ishizu cards, you can summon it. Search level 4, you can just normal summon it, and that also makes Dweller. Or Baguska, depending on if your opponent for example, Dimension Shifters you. So these cards are very, very strong. They have extremely powerful utility. Keldo specifically. Kelbeck's also really, really strong. Mills 5 when it's to the graveyard. So does Guido, but Kelbeck's a bit better because it doubles as a hand trap. Where if your opponent sends a card from the hand or deck to the graveyard, you can summon it from your hand and put a special summon monster back to the extra deck. So if your opponent has Kikalos in the field and they send some cards from the deck to grave, summon Kelbeck, bounce it back, and they don't have Kikalos in rotation anymore, which means they have to make it again in order to make Rulu Kalos. So Kelbeck's really, really strong. It also bounces Dweller on your opponent's turn. So if they make it early Dweller, to prevent you from activating effects, you can summon the Kelbeck, bounce that Dweller back, and then you don't have to deal with Dweller on your turn. Guido is slightly worse, just because this card, even though it's good, it doesn't do anything in the hand, unlike Kelbeck does. Like Kelbeck does the hand trap. Guido is fine. It can summon itself and summon another Ishizu card, basically to make rank 4, basically make a rank 4, so you're making Dweller with this. But otherwise it's just kind of mid, because it's just mills 5. I usually saw this card out going second, sometimes even going first, depending on the matchup. But yeah. That's it for the Ishizu cards. Then we have the Bestials. We have 3 Magnamuts, 2 Jerusalem, 1 Serenir. Very, very central Bestial lineup. There's not really much to talk about here. Magnamut's crazy. That's what they all need to know. I do side out. The side pattern for me, though, is typically, depending on the matchup, I usually side out the double Magnamut, Druis, and Serenir and keep what's plus 1 Magnamut, 1 Druis in deck. Depending on the matchup, specifically like if it's like Sprite or Flunder. Just because I can make Mud Dragon with this, because this is the only other Dark Monster you're playing, so which means you don't have another way to easily access Mud Dragon, so I just keep one of each in. Then we have just some miscellaneous monsters, one Diviner, one Orange Light. Orange is really, really good. It's a hand trap. If you open this plus any of the Ishizu cards, you're basically winning the game, because you send this and another Ishizu card, depending on what you sent. If you sent like a Kelbeck or a Guido, you mill 5, so this also acts as more interruption, because if you hit like any Tearlament name, you confuse during your opponent's turn. Or if you hit like a Shuffler, it's also extra disruption against Tearlament specifically, because your Shuffler cannot banish itself from the graveyard, and then just, shovel them away. Diviner is also really, really good. This card is fine. I like this card a lot because it lets me make Baron. But the only slight problem with this card is the fact that it's really, really bad going second. So you're setting this card out a lot when your opponent does something. Your opponent makes you go seconds. So you usually can set this card out for like Dark Blue or whatever you have in your side deck. Because this card's not that great going second. I like it a lot for the utility it has going first, because you can send the Ishizu card to make this a 6. Easy X the Baron or the, what's it called? Or it's Beatrice, depending on the boarding you make. Or you can send a level 2, like Orange Light, to actually make this a level 4 in order to make Dweller. So yeah, very, very good card. I made Spell Traps. A Complete Planet, obviously, with the 1 Terraforming, and then Scream and Vision. Very center lineup. Planet's very, very good, which is why you're playing Terraforming to search it. This card is incredible. It acts as Disruption if you have an Ishizu card in graveyard. It also boosts your attack, so it lets you OTK easier. And it searches any Tearlaments monster from deck to hand, so it's just a free add. Basically, Rhoda. Extra copy of each extra Tearlament name you need. Scream is also pretty nice. This card isn't that great going second, which is why I only play 1. And if you mill this off like an effect, you're usually going to search Crime or Silic off this, because those are the only cards you are searching off of it. It's like pretty good. It's really, really good in the mirror though, which is why I do keep it against the mirror, because you always want to mill more than your opponent. So in the case of that, you don't set this out, but any other case going second, you will take this card out for like War Breakers and whatnot. And then obviously you have Terraforming to search the planets. Insufficient is a crazy card because it's insufficient. Just make a Colossus for free. Then we have trap cards. Silic Crime as a Tearlament trap, and just 3 copies of Imperm. Imperm's a really crazy hand trap right now. It deals with a lot of different stuff. Gigantic Sprite, any of the Wonder monsters, Kikalos. This card has a lot of utility with it. Very, very strong card. Silic searches basically any Tearlament monster but to the graveyard. Also doubles as a second copy of Imperm, or 4th copy of Imperm in this instance, where it permanently negates something, which is really, really strong also. It also lets you send a Tearlament monster, or any monster actually, sorry, from your field to the graveyard, which means you can also like trigger more Tearlament effects, shuffle, fuse during your opponent's turn and whatnot. This card's really, really good if you send Kaleido Heart off of it, because you can summon Kaleido Heart back, you spin a card back in the deck, and you also dump a Tearlament name, so you can fuse a summon again, so you can usually make like Rulo Kalos or Trigger Stapelia, depending on what your graveyard is. Crime is very, very good. This card's really crazy going first. Going second, it's pretty terrible, which is why you set this out. It's basically Omni-Negate with a Tearlament monster, and you send a card from the hand to the graveyard, a monster. So you can send any of the Ishizu cards, and then mill 5 if you send like Kelbeck or Agido. If you send a Shuffler, same deal with the Orange Light, you can just shuffle during your opponent's turn. This card's very, very strong. I would definitely play this card at 1. You could play 2 Silic instead of 1 Crime, but I like Crime a lot. That's it for the main deck. As for the extra deck, we have the Link monsters first. Sprint, Elf, Dark. Sprint is crazy. This card is nuts. This lets you play through so many things, because you can just go summon Dark with any two Dark monsters on your field. Summon Dark, revive with like one of your opponent's Dark monsters, like usually Magnamut if you have one in the grave. Activate Magnamut, search an end phase, obviously. You link Magnamut and Dark off for Sprint. Sprint lets you dump early from deck, and you can just fusion summon anyways. So let's say your opponent, I don't know, like Bishul's have this Gyron. Then if you don't have any more extension. Just kidding. Make Dark, make Sprint, dump early, play anyways. This card is basically a Tearlaments card. It's insane. Elf is funny. It's not as good as Sprint, but this card still really has a lot of utility with it. You can bring back Diviner from your graveyard in order to have a line to Baron, or you can bring back Merle during your opponent's turn, build 3. Also, has Tearlaments name on the field, so you can have cards like Sulik and Crime be active. Uh, and it just has a lot of fun utility with this card. This card's pretty great. Then we have the fusion monsters. Kikalos, obviously. Lucalos, Kaleido Heart, Mud Dragon, Garura, Dragostapelia. You could play 2 Kikalos. I just didn't feel like I needed it. Kikalos is obviously crazy. Lets you search any Kaleido monster, and you already know what this card does. Rukalos, the same thing. Kaleido, same thing. These all 3 cards are really, really good. Kaleido is funny because you can send this. There's a lot of funny combos you can do with this card. Where if you have Planet on Field or it's like Solid and Grave, whatever, or Solid on Field or something, you can go Planet Effect, pop your own Kaleido Heart. So Kaleido Heart sends itself to the graveyard. Then you revive Kaleido Heart and just send any other tier, maybe have an activity that turn, so you have more extension. There's a lot of really cool lines you can do with this card because it dumps Tearlaments monster when it gets into the graveyard. So yeah. As for the other fusions, Mud Dragon is pretty nice. It prevents all your monsters from being targeted. Also, your opponent's monster, if you declare dark with this, and your opponent playing with Tearlament, they can't use Kid Effect to target itself in order to special summon a monster, or any dark monster, in fact. So they have to target like something like, I don't know, a Diviner on field or something, in order to actually summon the Tearlament monster back. So yeah, this card's actually really, really good against Kala specifically. Guras makes you make Beatrice pretty easily, which is why you're playing it. Also, it's a free draw one. And Dragostapelia, it's just a negate. You're making this over Rukalos against Fluanderies, essentially. Then we have the Seas monsters, which are arguably probably the most important part of the deck, specifically Dweller. Then we have Baguska, Redoer, Beatrice, Zeus. Dweller is crazy. It hits a lot of good, actually a lot of decks. Doesn't do much against Sprite or Flu. It doesn't do anything against Flu, but it's really, really good against Tearlaments, which is like you're worried about the most, anyways. Baguska is really, really good if you get D-shifted, because all the decks that play D-shifted can't really play the Baguska. So you slap this on defense. If it gets Flu, they can't really do much. They just pass back to you, and you go, and you can just play. Redoer is pretty nice because this card is actually pretty big for the rank 4, which means you can beat over some stuff and then stack Zeus on top of it, and then like Zeus full field. Or in other cases, Redoers also can trigger Shiren because you can detest Shiren's effects and the Shiren triggers. Very, very good card. You could cut this for something else if you want to. You can cut this for second Kalos or something, or Wallow if you want to play that, but I'm not playing it. We have Beatrice. Beatrice is very, very good also. Lets you use any 2 Bishals, stack this, or use the Garura. And you just send any card from deck to graveyard. You can send Sulik, and you use Sulik effect to grab Heart for plays, or you can send a Chilling monster to fuse during your opponent's turn. Send a Shuffler for extra disruption. This card has so much utility, it's kind of insane how good this card is. And you have a Zeus, of course. Zeus is just like, you just smack this top. So it's helps you break boards pretty easily. Specifically boards that have Necro Valley up, so you can just slap Zeus down, Necro Valley wipe the whole field, and then you can start playing. You have the final card in an extra deck, Baron. Baron's fine. It's just an Omni Negate. It's like whatever. You make this with Diviner. That's really it. There's some instances where you can bring back Orange Light and use 2 level 4s in that to make Baron. But that takes up a lot of like effort to do that, so I don't do that. You really only use this. You really only make this if you have Diviner. It's fine. You could definitely cut this for something else if you want to. I like the card a lot because it has some nice utility because you can bounce this back, bring back like Rhino Heart during your opponent's turn, and then fuse during then if you weren't able to do so during your own turn. So yeah, this card's pretty neat. I like it. As for our side deck, we have spells. We have 3 copies of Lightning Storm, 3 copies of Dark Ruler No More, Feather Duster. I'll go over these first. The rest are have to be talked about together. Lightning Storm is crazy. Dark Ruler is crazy. Duster is pretty crazy. There's really nothing else to say about these. These are just all really, really good blowout cards. Then we have the Zombie World package. We have 1 Wreck Roll Banshee, 1 Set Rotation, and then 1 Zombie Worlds. Set Rotation is funny because it doubles as what's it called? Doubles as backer removal. If against like specifically Full Wander Raids, you can actually activate this, set like planets to this side of the field, and you set Zombie World, and then they can't. So you basically set this over the map, so they can't have map anymore. It's a cool card. I like it a lot. Banshee obviously, activates Zombie World from deck. That's also a thing. But yeah, pretty standard lineup. You could definitely play second Zombie World over this rotation, but I've been liking it a lot. So yeah. Then for monsters, we just have. Oops, that's the wrong one. For monsters, we just have 3 copies of Gamma and the Driver and Scattershot. Scattershot's for time, obviously. No other reason you're playing this card. Um, Gamma is really good. This card is absurd. It does so much things. It stops D-Shifter. It stops Sprite from playing, basically, because Sprite hardlesses this card. It stops Tearlaments to some extent. It really hurts also Fluanderies to some extent. It basically screws over any rogue deck. This card does so much. It's actually insane. I 100% would side this in any deck. This card has an insane amount of utility for just stopping so many different decks only second. You can also side this in going first if you're against a deck that you know is playing D-Shifter, because you slap this on during your turn, and then you just play. So yeah, this card is very, very good. But yeah, that's it for the deck profile itself. I guess I'll just have a quick rundown of the deck, of the regional. Today I played in the remote regional, which was in California for some reason. But yeah, I went X1-1. Round 1, I got a free win because my opponent never showed up. Round 2, I played against Sprite. I lost both games because my opponent opened pretty well game 1, and I opened pretty mediocre. And then game 2, he opened 3 Bestials, so I really couldn't do anything about that. So I just ended up scooping. Round 3, I played against Fluanderies. My opponent didn't really know what any of the Tearlaments cards did, so he had to look them up, so he ended up drawing. Round 4, I played against another Fluanderies. I won that match because I opened Lightning Storm twice in a row, games 2 and 3. Round 5, we also played against Labyrinth, and then we opened Lightning Storm again 2 times in a row, and so we just Lightning Storm his board twice, and won with that. And then round 6, which is the last round, was a Tearlament mirror. It was pretty back and forth for game 1 and 2. Game 3, I opened 3 Bestials, so that was the end of that. It was a pretty mediocre run. There wasn't a whole lot that happened. My Queen's Regional was a lot more exciting because I played 7 Tearlament mirrors out of 9 rounds Swiss, and I played really well, actually, that regional. Missing out on my invite for just 1 win. So if I won round 8 or 9, then I would have gotten my invite. But it's fine because I got it today. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. I'm actually learning editing from Dyer right now, so you guys are gonna be there's gonna be a lot of fun videos in the future soon, very, very soon. In fact, probably a month or so from now. So stay till then. I'm planning to go YouTube pretty big. So yeah, thank you.